Welcome to Offplanet Radio. I'm Randy Maugans. I have with me on the line from the UK probably one of the most credible documented witnesses on a wide variety of topics in the realm of inquiry that we've been doing many years on this show. Barry King has a lifelong exposure to the dark side, to the things that have been going on in the background of history, post-World War II certainly, in regards to special projects, underground bases, and off-world contacts. And so, Barry, I welcome you and I thank you for coming on today. It's been difficult for both of us getting connected.
That's okay. Thanks very much for giving me this opportunity.
And you have a lot of you've done a fair amount of interviews over the years, and you have some great interviews with a number of different shows across Europe as well as the U.S. You did a recent video with Carrie on Project Camelot and Veritas as well. You have that information out there. So maybe what I'd like to do in the first few minutes is we'll go into a little bit of your early history, but since there's such a good record of that, except for some questions I have, I'd like to kind of go off into the realm of some wider inquiry if we can.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, far away.
So maybe where we begin here is we begin at the beginning, which is your childhood, because this goes back very far into your early history, and maybe just kind of bring us up where this all began with you.
Okay. I've tried to detail over the years on various forums and in some of the interviews the starting point when I was about 2 years of age. And it probably begins there. And I've given information all through childhood, through my teens, early 20s. And because it seemed so confusing to a lot of people, they just couldn't connect the dots. Over the last year or two, I've actually tried to connect the dots for them. Because they've seen, oh, that happened at that stage, this happened at that stage. We can't quite see the connection. And what the biggest bugbear I found over the years so far is, how did I suddenly find myself at an underground base in Berkshire from being a ufologist during the 70s? And people just couldn't connect the two. What's a high-profile ufologist suddenly being thrown into a top-secret underground base, and then all these other things are happening? They couldn't connect the dots. So it was very frustrating over the years. I could only say certain things. I did try in the original documents I put out in the 90s. A lot of bits and pieces were put in those documents, and I was hoping people would just simply sit down, read, start connecting the dots. It just didn't work that way, unfortunately. So I had to come back onto the forums in 2005 and start connecting the dots for them.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, sure.
How do you remember being 2 years old? And I'm asking you this because in recounting some of my own experiences, which for me goes back to 3 years old, people have asked me, how do you remember being 2 and 3 years old? So I'll ask you the question, kind of half knowing the answer.
Well, in my case, during my young childhood, I had these visions in my mind of seeing myself as a tiny tot, laying in a hospital bed, seeing my parents, seeing a priest being called. I was given the last rites, and of course, I thought, what is this? And as I was getting older, I was told, oh yes, you were rushed to hospital with double pneumonia, which was a killer disease in the 50s.
Yes.
And you were given very little hope of actually surviving. So yes, we did call a priest in. He gave you the last rites. You did actually pass away. But moments later, you suddenly revived, and here you are. So I got it from my parents after asking so many questions as a child. You know, why do I keep seeing this? And why do I keep seeing? Oh, and I described the scene to them as if I was viewing it from some high point in the room. And what I described, they just couldn't believe, because that is exactly how it actually was in that hospital at that time. So it was confirmed by my parents. many times over the years that, I died at age 2 and miraculously came back.
Now, this experience is in no way, is this connected in some way to what was probably unfolding in the background of your life? Because clearly you were selected early on in life. Did this have, was this connected to that, or was this simply just an early memory that you have that maybe opened up your perception a little bit more?
Well, that's what probably a lot of people are going to find difficult to accept, which I understand, and that's perfectly okay with me. But later in life, after all the various experiences and events that I had during childhood, it was explained to me that I was substituted at age 2.
A walk-in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Barry King that died at age 2 is not the Barry King that's around now, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's a tough concept to communicate.
Yeah.
Because consciously you are aware that you are that person, and yet consciously you're aware that an element of your being, and I don't want to classify it, essentially did die at that point, but another presence, another being, another consciousness walked in.
Mm-hmm. It is very difficult trying to put it into words and to get people to even begin to understand what actually occurred at that stage. But certainly, it's been explained to me in a way that perhaps I can understand as such, that this race of beings, which we can call the elders or the old ones,
okay,
actually picked me at that time. And so therefore I've been with them all this time since the age of 2. I know that's very difficult for people to grasp and comprehend, but basically that's it. And so I was set up at age 2 to experience so many different things and being guided by the elders at the same time.
So these were basically benevolent beings who pre-selected you and were looking out for your well-being, knowing that you were about to embark on a very difficult life.
Mm-hmm. I was just probably one of many.
Yes, I would suspect that's very true. Flash forward a little bit. What is your next detailed memory of events that began moving you towards the arc of your life?
Well, I had many strange experiences as a young child that you could tag maybe paranormal, or may have something to do with the UFO side of things. At age 4, when I was brought into the survey, the genetic survey program, from that point on, I experienced so many different paranormal events. Do you want me to be specific? I can give instances.
Sure, absolutely. I'm thinking you're probably saying here these are psychic things that we're developing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead. Give us a little bit of detail. I think this is interesting.
Well, let's see. The first one I can recall is around the age of 4 or 5, which involves the whole family, actually. So I wasn't the sole witness to this event, and my whole family actually were witness to it. In the house I was born, back in the 50s, one particular day, we was waiting for my dad to come back from work, and we were all in the living room, and this very large black cloud-like, like a mass, a thing, just it was like a cloud, black, coming up the stairs. We all bolted back into the front room, and like a bunch of cowards, we all hid behind the sofa as this black cloud-like thing came into the room. It stopped, but then proceeded towards our position. As I said, we're all hiding behind the sofa. at the time it started coming our way, my dad walked into the room. He walked through this cloud-like thing, stopped for a moment, and then walked to the window and just stood there as if in a daze. Now, I can only recall this thing reaching almost to us at the sofa, and then there's no more memory. I just remember afterwards, being so scared, small kid, what the hell was all this? My dad was, he recalled coming up the stairs, entering the room, seeing something big and black, and then he remembered no more. So that was the very first weird experience.
I want to press you a little bit on this because this is interesting. This was a presence. Did you sense it as such? Was it palpable? Did you have a sense that there was a presence there of something that was intelligent, something that was sentient?
Well, remember, I'm just a small child.
Right.
So I'm going to have, emotions of real fear overriding everything else. But certainly, I could look back on it and sense that, yes, there was some evil with this black cloud. And talking with my mum and my siblings afterwards, what did you make of this? And everyone was just terrified. This thing did give off an evil. That's all we sensed, was pure evil. But no one can remember anything after this thing was approaching the sofa. That's it, everyone's memory just stopped.
Any missing time in this particular event?
Impossible to say now.
Okay.
I was very young. No one else can remember anything. It was later in the evening when sitting round for dinner and discussing, because my dad was in a daze state for hours. I can recall. He couldn't think clearly. He just sat looking into the distance. He just wasn't himself for a while.
That's pretty detailed memory, actually, for a 4-year-old child. I mean, the fear itself, obviously, that's a response, but that's a very real response based on a perception of threat. Take us forward. You said something about being genetically selected.
Yeah, that, as I say, is the genetic survey, which is known as, run by the UK, the US, and Canada. Now, that's gone by 2 code names in the past. The American code name was Oak Tree, and the UK one, when it started out, was Anvil, but we amalgamated that into Oak Tree, so the whole project continues as Oak Tree and continues to this day. Now, what that actually entails is selecting those individuals at a very early age to undergo all various tests and some genetic experimentation as well.
In terms of what you were selected from, can you give me a little bit, if you don't mind me asking, a little bit of your own genetic peculiarities? For instance, blood type, eye color, specific bloodline, race, or things that they might have been looking for in you specifically?
Right. Well, again, probably I'm going to disappoint a lot of people. I don't think I've got any really special bloodline to go back. Our ancestors are Celtic.
Right.
But if that's going to be of any use at all.
Yeah, well, actually, in terms of surveys statistically, that is useful. Yeah.
Well, okay. Blood type, well, again, mine, I don't think is really unusual. My blood group is blood group O, and it's POS-neg. So I don't think it's really anything unusual there. I've been, let me see, eye color, a hazel.
Okay.
Special there. So I think it's mainly more of an inborn, more of a psychic. I think it's internal.
Yes.
The differences and abilities, if you like. There's nothing external about me that would set me apart.
Okay, so they've determined that you fit a certain profile. Now, did they test you?